torque on older vehicles. This is something that
disappears.
Yeah, and you might have got your Nissan Sunny brand new, and you've been driving it now. You got it up to 500,000 kilometers, and when you first got it, it was a sports car. You could be off the lights, and you could pass people on the highway like it was no one's business. Now you're 15 years in with that Nissan Sunny. It's the love of your life, and you need
12 newton meters of torque left.
You need to pass someone on the highway, and everyone knows that. You pull out, and you got to go, and you gunner, pedal to the metal. And it does nothing. Kind of like my Jeep, actually.
I'm still struggling with you pull out, you got to go.
Yeah. So what's going on there? How does the torque disappear? And is there any hope to get some of it back?
So I guess it's down to the old. Like to start with torque and horsepower. They're the two sort of metrics people use to measure.
I think no one has a clue what's going on with either.
Basically, the torque is the amount of effort that you can put into getting the horsepower to move the car.
Okay. So it's the get up and go.
Yeah, it's the bit that you feel that throws you in your seat.
Yeah.
And it still requires the engine. It ultimately is, as the engine wears, it loses efficiency quite drastically.
Yeah.
So it wears to the point where the compression doesn't stay as high as it could. So you might have started with 12 bar of compression per cylinder, and then you might be down to 10, and then 9, and then 8. And if they do that uniformly and they stay at sort of 8 or 9, most engines will run without you necessarily having to misfire.
Okay. Do engines, as they're wearing, do they tend to wear uniformly?
Not always. What will happen is you'll have a defect in a component on one cylinder, like a spark plug or an ignition coil or something, which will cause a misfire, which will give extra carbon deposits in that cylinder, which will then make that cylinder wear quicker. Or you'll have an issue where you might lose an injector on one cylinder, you'll get less and less fuel, so it runs very lean, so then it burns the valves out, etc., etc. So then it tends to be, but on a car that's been well maintained, you'll probably find uniform wear across all cylinders, and even on a brand new engine though, you do a compression test, you wouldn't have uniform.
Oh, really?
No. Once it's been run for a little while, everything's going to be slightly. We're talking
fractions,
negligibly.
Yeah.
By the time you've accounted for equipment error, it's hard to say. But as soon as an engine's wearing itself out, which is the moment you turn the key the first time, then the only place the torque and the horsepower are going is down.
Okay.
It is just a fact of it, and you can over-service them, change the oil more regularly.
That's going to help me with my torque.
You can help with your engine life, and there's a lot to be said for keeping the oil clean. I've just mentioned carbon on a misfire situation where a spark plug fails or something. You don't get a spark on a petrol engine. If you keep the oil clean, that carbon gets washed into the oil, and it's all good.
Okay.
But oftentimes what happens is the pistons in the cylinders, there's the rings, the control rings. You've got compression rings, 1 or 2 or 3, and then you've got one called the oil control ring. And the oil control ring basically does what it says it does. It controls the amount of oil left in the cylinder. So that's actually scraping and scratching against the cylinder effectively to keep the oil out of the combustion chamber when it's time to fire.
Okay.
So when that's scraping carbon off the side, that gets gummed up. So it becomes less and less efficient. So then you end up with more oil in the cylinder. Starts to burn oil, which creates extra carbon, smoke, and then everything just gets into a vicious cycle, and a perfect storm compounds one another, and you very, very quickly wear an engine out by burning oil. So
lots of oil changes.
Yeah,
is going to help a little bit.
Frequent oil changes does help.